I recently turned 26, and 26 felt like a really big milestone. I just finished the first 4 years of post-grad. I had 22 to 26, almost like the college of post-grad, and it feels like I just graduated that. And now I'm entering the next stage of life, which is 26 to 30. And that kind of feels like, okay, you've graduated post-grad, you're officially an adult, you're officially in the real world. You've learned a lot about yourself, you've learned a lot about your career. What's next? Like, what are the things you want to do before you have a family, before you have kids? Like, that kind of feels like what this window of time is. And I think why I've been wanting to like document it and sit with it. I feel so proud of how far I've grown, but I also know I want to just keep leaning into it and keep turning into this beautiful person that I am, but also want to become. I want to touch on the different parts of my life. I want to touch on career as well as relationship. We'll see what else comes up, but those have been the two big ones, maybe friendships too. I grew up in Palo Alto, and it's very competitive here. It was all about get good grades, get into a good college, get a good internship, get a good job, and just kind of followed the traditional path of success. Graduated in 2020 and a pandemic hit. And everybody's in their homes, everybody's sheltering in place, and a few friends and I said, well, if we're gonna be in home sheltering in place, we can't do anything, may as well do that from cool places. Anywhere that was within driving distance. So we did Oregon, Seattle, Utah, Colorado, San Diego, LA, and we didn't mean to do so much at first, but we kind of just started the trip, we were all vibing, we all became really, really close friends, and we thought, why not just keep going? Why not just keep continuing this? And we went for a whole year. It was essentially an extension of college. We hung out, we have deep talks, there was romance, like it was essentially an extension of college. And what happened after that, all of them that I had been friends with moved to New York. But I didn't want to go to New York. I tried out New York. I lived with them for maybe 2 months or so, or kind of lived in New York, but I wasn't really vibing with New York. I ended up staying in San Francisco. And at this point, I feel like this is when kind of post-grad officially begun. And I really struggled with friendship separation. I felt like all my friends were somewhere else. And I was in San Francisco, even though that's the area I kind of grew up in, I was in San Francisco and everybody else was kind of moving on without me is what that felt like. And as much as that was a really, really hard period of my life, I also think it was one of the most beautiful and one of the ones that I am most grateful for, because I really got to tune in to what do I want. Not what does anybody else want from me, not do what all my friends want, what are my friends doing, but what do I want? And that was the first time that I realized that I didn't really have the answers to those questions. I didn't know what I wanted because my whole life I had just been in school and following the traditional path, being in Palo Alto, trying to just focus on getting good grades, getting into a good college, getting a good internship, getting a good job, and just following what the traditional path was. And so it was the first time in my life that I really wrestled with, I don't know what I want. And is everything that I've been building toward been pointless, been randomly defined by somebody and not actually by myself? And oh my God, what do I want? And I just dealt with this existential crisis that came up. I was really anxious all the time. I was extremely anxious. I wouldn't necessarily have called myself somebody that was anxious before, but that period of my life was very, very hard. At that point in my life, I ended up leaning into a lot of self-help books and listening to podcasts and journaling, doing a gratitude journal every morning, and just really leaning into all of these resources that were supposed to help me feel better. One of those resources in particular was what was called a mirror exercise, where you talk to yourself in the mirror, essentially like this. You talk to yourself in the mirror and you give yourself a pep talk. So I would say, Adele, I'm so proud of you for making this video. This is something you've wanted to do. I'm so glad you showed up. Thank you. I love you. That would be a type of mirror work exercise. And I was doing that alone in my room in New York, struggling with a lot of anxiety, and I just thought to myself, this is amazing. Why are more people not doing this? Why can I go to a gym to practice my physical fitness in a group, but I can't go anywhere to practice my mental fitness in a group? That was where I came up with the idea of the Confidence Studio. I got so excited about this idea. I created 30 pages worth of documents over the next few months, thinking about what the Confidence Studio would look like and feel like and what types of exercises we would do. And it just felt really good to lean into that. I also ended up getting a confidence coach certification so I could really feel like I was qualified to teach this kind of thing. And that was almost my first journey into figuring out what I wanted for myself. It was the first time I felt myself really lighting up with passion for something that I am doing. I have some tears because I feel like I've really, like over the last 4 years, really become this person I'm really proud of, because like now all I do is lean into passion, and I have learned how to stand up for myself and protect that passion and honor her. That girl who created the Confidence Studio didn't feel the most confident at the time. I think that's why I feel so proud of who I am today, because I really feel confident now. The first few years after college are hard, and you're trying to like find yourself, and it's not easy, and it's not an easy journey, but kind of being on the other side of it now, I'm really proud of myself. So that's why I got emotional. Now I would love to touch on why I don't think I was confident, and why my confidence got shot down a lot over the span of 5-6 years. And I say 5-6 years because actually I think in high school I was very confident. I didn't really care what other people thought. I really leaned into my passions and was curious, but somewhere along the way I lost that. I think a few reasons. The first is my love life in college. I went into college with a boyfriend who treated me really well and was a lovely first boyfriend. He was my first love and was really wonderful. And we broke up at the end of freshman year. But I think I went into college really with this purity of like what love was and how relationships are. And I think I tried to bring that same purity to college relationships and college hookups, and that same purity was not there. I think just multiple times over and over I got very hurt. I think I just went in with purity that if somebody's kind of treating you well, treating you nicely, that means that they're going to stick around, or that means that they're there to stick around, and that did not seem to be the case. And I just got hurt a lot. And I think Knox, this girl who's so pure and so loving and free, and just really like kind of breaks down her heart a little bit. And that's okay, because that's part of the learning, and that's part of the learning that we have in life. But I think just those relationships is kind of like, you're this really crucial age. You're like 19 to 22, where you're just learning about love. Like I heard this one thing one time where we only start learning about love at like, through practice at age like 16, 17 maybe. And as much as you've been alive for 22 years, your experience with love might only be like 3 years old or 4 years old. So it makes sense that some people have to go through that I had to go through that, and I'm still trying to like love for that version of myself that got knocked down a few times. I also want to share too, something that was extremely hard in college as well was I had a friend who I was very close with in high school. It was one of my best friends who passed away unexpectedly in a freak accident. I think that was the first time that I was ever confronted with the reality that we don't live forever. Like I think, you just think when you're young that you get to live forever. And that was the first time that I dealt with an unexpected death of somebody who was young. He died at 19. And that really shattered me too, especially because he was one of the people that was the most supportive of me. He was so loving to me. He was so smart. He was so ambitious and funny and friends with everyone and social, but mostly just I always felt so supported by him and so loved by him. And so losing that person in my life, especially at a time where I was dealing with a lot of hits in confidence, was really hard too. And my therapist had said to me, isn't the best thing that you could possibly do to honor him to learn how to love yourself in the way that he loved you? And I really have taken that with me. So I want to tie all of that back to the Confidence Studio. I had just started this thing called the Confidence Studio. I just come up with the idea around what if there was a place where we could work out our mental fitness and our confidence just as much as our physical fitness. So I'd been ideating on this idea for so long. It was in so many documents. I got a confidence coach certification to make this happen. But the thing is, it was a year later since I had come up with this idea, and I had never actually hosted a dang class. And the reason for this was because I was freaking terrified. I was very, very scared to make my idea come to life. So it was so much easier to just plan and research and pretend I was making progress than to ever actually just host a class and actually add value to people. Which I think is probably something that we are all too familiar with, where you prep as a way to pretend that you're making progress, but you're not fucking doing anything. And so I'm laughing about this now because I've made a lot of progress since then. But it was my sister who sat me down and said to me, Adele, I'm tired of hearing you talk about this with you not actually hosting a class. Like, you are avoiding giving value to people. Like, there is value to be given to people that you are holding back on because you're too scared. So she was like, I don't want to hear about this idea anymore unless you do it. Let's put a date on the calendar. Just make it as simple as freaking possible to get this idea done. It can just be me and you and one other friend in a room. Let's just do that. And so I said, you know what, fine. And so we put it on the calendar, and I invited my sister, who I'm very close with and feel very comfortable with, and I invited 2 other friends, and I invited them to my room, and I prepped a 2-hour workshop for us. We did it. I was extremely nervous, but we did it, and it was awesome, and they got a ton of value. The beauty about what I've learned about confidence is it is a muscle. It is not something that you just have or don't have, but something that you can really work on over time by strengthening it, by doing reps, by doing things that scare you. And the best thing is to just start small. And so that was me starting small. It took me a year to get to that point, a whole year. But that was me starting small. The week later, I said, you know what, this was awesome. Why don't I do this with a few friends? So I ran the exact same class, this time at my sister's house, which was a little bit bigger and more spacious, with I think it was like 6 friends. And I said to myself, this was awesome, this was good, let's keep going, let's invite a few more friends. And I think that was the first 5 sessions or so. And the beauty is, when you just learn that you can fucking do something, you just keep going. Eventually I went to New York for a trip. I tried out a session there, and one guy loved it so much he said, I have friends in Palo Alto who would love to do this, can I organize a whole session for them? And so we did that, and so all I'm saying is that it grows and grows and grows. Eventually, there was this place in San Francisco called The Commons, which is a third space that was focused a lot of introspection, a lot of growth, a lot of self-growth. It was the perfect place to host the Confidence Studio. And so I talked to the founder, and within a few months I was able to get my first session up and running there, which was all strangers. Now I am moving fully to strangers. I'm in a brand new space, and just like, look how much momentum happens when you just freaking do it. That is one of my biggest takeaways from the last 4 years, is just fucking do it. Like, stop overthinking. Yes, idea land is beautiful, and those ideas feel fresh and wonderful, but what happens when you actually get to take it to people who get a real impact on it? That's the stuff. I'm doing the Confidence Studio once a week or so while I have my full-time job. And now, that job lays me off in April of 2023. First off, I was very happy about it. I mean, they had done 8 rounds of layoffs in a few months. I was happy to be out of there. The stress was intense. I had this Confidence Studio idea that I had been working on now for a while, and actually adding value to people's lives and doing this with strangers. And I thought to myself, this feels so good. This feels like one of the first few times in my life that I am truly understanding what it is that I want, not what anybody else wants for me. That felt so freaking aligned. So when I got laid off, I thought to myself, what if I could explore this more fully? What if I could use this as a chance to really get to know who I am without anybody telling me what to do? So I decided to use the next few months, almost taking my first sabbatical. I did a 30-day writing class. I think I started doing a dance class. I started a weekly walk in San Francisco inspired by something that started in Austin. I did this program called Build Space, which was a school to build your own ideas within 6 weeks. And I did more of the confidence studio. I kept growing that. Leaned into literally anything that caught my interest and made me feel joyful. And I think that is one of the key things that I would really tell somebody who's looking to find this and find these answers for themselves, is lean into anything that makes you feel joyful, because I think we forget what that feeling is. And you have to learn how to tune into it again. Do anything that makes you feel like that. And I did that. And it was really good, and I felt like myself again. I felt lighter again, and I felt like I was starting to find more answers for myself. And I want to say too that I have a family that really rejected in many ways what I was doing, because we are in the middle of a recession that's starting to happen at that point. And I have a family, I'm a child of 2 immigrant parents from Eastern Europe, and they grew up really just focused on making money. That was the number one thing. That was the thing you have to worry about, that you have to focus about. It was scarcity mindset because it was a scarcity time. I feel very lucky, but I feel that I'm living in a different time. I had to have weekly conversations with my family, at least one of them, about kind of reinforcing why I'm doing what I'm doing, because they didn't understand. And as much as this was exhausting, and still is in some ways, I think it was the first time in a long time that I have learned that when you are trying to pursue your own ideas, when you are trying to pursue what is an authentic life for you, you need to advocate for that. And not everyone's going to be okay with it. And that is okay. And you have to honor the path that you're on, and you're gonna have to deal with pushback. And so as exhausting as it is that somebody might not be supporting you, that is almost a part of the path, because you're gonna run across people who do not support what you're doing, and you're just gonna have to deal with that. So I just say that those conversations are kind of a part of it. I wish they died down, and they do die down sometimes, but I'll just kind of fast forward that eventually my dad was one of the people that when things kind of started turning up and looking up, he was like, I trust your process now. And I think even my brother came to terms with like, you know what, I see what you mean. This is the way in which you light up, and how that's what you're good at, and how there's opportunities for you there. So it feels good when that comes full circle, but don't expect that at first. You have to just keep owning that and leaning in. And I say that to myself even in this moment that I am in now. So that's my first sabbatical. It was just an incredible season of listening to my own intuition. It essentially lasted from May to November. And along this time, I'm also trying to look for jobs, but nothing's working out. What was incredible, and a moment where I really just trusted the process of everything I was doing, was I ended up finding a job within 1 week because 2 people introduced me to this guy in the same week. One person from the walks. So one person introduced me, kind of somebody I met through the walks, and the other person through the confidence studio. So through the 2 aligned things that I was doing, I found this job opportunity, and it got signed within a week, which was just absolutely incredible. And another thing too was I ended up getting into a program to do Build Space in person, this school to build your own ideas, in person for 11 weeks. And so I ended up taking both opportunities. Build Space I did for 11 weeks, and that really challenged me. You had to set any numerical goal that was relevant for your business. And so mine was to make 5K in revenue, because I had really been struggling to charge for what I was doing. The confidence studios, I got the confidence to charge $25, but like I was not making much. I think in my 1.5 years of working on it, I made about $600. So I wanted to try to make 5K within 2 months. And I didn't know, I was scared as hell to do that, but I wanted to do that. And I'm really grateful for some role models in particular who really helped push me to do that. I ended up launching a confidence studio cohort that was 4 weeks long. It was called Nova. It was workshops for your personal goals and a way to really transform your personal goals. I'm really proud of some of the impacts that it's had. I really got to work with people who are in this amazing pivotal life stage and try to help them. I ran my first cohort, and I think that one made $2,500, and I ended up running my first B2B opportunity where I hosted a Nova session at an offsite for a company, and they were going to pay me $750 for 2 hours. But partway through they pulled me aside and they said, "This is amazing, can you please go for 3 hours, we'll give you $1,000. So I made $1,000 in 3 hours, which was incredible. And of course that doesn't include the prep work and everything that went into it beforehand. But that being said, I got very, very close. I ran one more session of Nova 2. I got extremely close to my 5,000 goal of revenue. And I felt so proud of that, and Build Space really just helped me get over the block of charging money. I don't know when or how I would have gotten over that by myself. I was alongside other builders who really helped inspire me, that I kind of wasn't alone on this path that I was doing. After all that, I decided to take a step back because I didn't feel like Nova / the Confidence Studio was getting as much traction as I otherwise would have liked after working on it for close to 2 years. It might have been a marketing problem. It might have just been I didn't know how to explain what this was, because it was coaching, but group coaching, but a workshop. It was hard to explain in a way, so I kind of took a step back. I took time to reflect and process everything that had happened. And I ended up posting on Twitter about this new idea called Dining with Strangers, which was, what if we bring strangers together, 50 people, to an upscale restaurant to have deep conversations with each other. That's the whole point. And this completely took off. I'm at 800 applications for this now. And it went viral on Twitter. What I'm so proud of, and you can see the difference in my growth here between the Confidence Studio versus this dinner, was the Confidence Studio took me a year to ever even host one session with a small group of people. Dining with Strangers, I posted on Twitter and I got a ton of interest, and I immediately acted. I charged a ticket of $200. I got 45 people to pay that within 1 week, so close to $10,000 in revenue. Not profit, but revenue. I launched the first dinner within 4 weeks. The first week was sales, the second week was finding a restaurant, the third was designing the experience, and the fourth was getting any supplies that I needed. Like boom, 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 done. That is the kind of confidence that you get and the muscle that you form when you learn how to just do your ideas without thinking, without just go. Also, it was just incredible because I felt like Nova wasn't getting the interest that I wanted, and Dining with Strangers got double that interest within a week. So it is also an amazing sentiment. If you feel like you're at a micro peak, something small, but you feel like there could be a bigger peak around the corner, don't be afraid to go back down the hill in order to go up even farther. That's another big lesson that I've learned too. And I've done 3 dinners since then, which is awesome. I am close to 30,000 in revenue for it. Again, not profit, but revenue. And I feel really, really proud of that. I end up hiking the Inca Trail. It's a 4-day trek. I got a stomach bug along the way. It was hard as fuck. I ended up hiking the Inca Trail right after that, but I did it, and that was amazing. And I learned the power of community being there for you even in the hard times. I also did a triathlon later this year, I think in June or July. It was something I kind of randomly signed up for and was inspired to do after the Inca Trail, but I did my triathlon. It was a sprint. I ended up solo traveling Thailand, and where that came from is my friend who had passed away. He told me that one of the best things he'd ever done was solo traveling Thailand, and I had wanted to do that for over 5 years, but I was very scared. I had never solo traveled. It's 22 hours away. Seemed scary, seemed terrifying, but it was my boyfriend. I was talking to him in the car, and I was crying, and I said, I just really, really, really want to do this, and I think I need to do it alone. Like, I really have to do it alone, but I'm really scared. And he told me, after having heard this many, many times, he was like, Adele, you have to do it. It is something you clearly want. You're gonna go do it. I booked the tickets to Thailand, within a week, and I did it. And this is now, we're in the more recent era of my 2024. I ended up doing 2 weeks in Thailand solo, and then 2 weeks in Japan with my boyfriend. And the Thailand trip in particular was just so special because, first off, it just taught me again, just go do the nudges in your head, go do the ideas in your head. They're taking you somewhere, they're taking you to somewhere that you know you're supposed to be, just go do it. Thailand was amazing. Everything went right. I met incredible people along the way. I'd be sitting alone at dinner wondering if, what I was doing, and a solo traveler woman would sit right next to me. I was doing a hike alone by myself, and 4 of us solo travel females all ended up on the hike at the exact same time. I was feeling lonely and wasn't vibing with anybody. and I ended up sitting next to somebody who gave me my first motorcycle ride and ended up taking me to a bunch of the different sites the next day. It was his last day in Thailand, or in Pai, and we just had a really incredible experience together. And he also reminded me of my friend who had passed away in some ways, and everything felt so aligned, and I felt like I was able to access genuine joy. Mostly just, I also got to spend so much time listening to my own thoughts and hearing my own thoughts in my head about like, who is this girl? And I realized that a lot of my life I've gone putting other people on pedestals and allowing other people to tell me what to do or what to believe in both little and big ways. And in Thailand, it was one of the first times in a while that it felt like I got to decide everything that happened, everything I did every day, I decided for myself. And also I learned, like, I love this person here. Like, I love her, she's wonderful. And I want to listen to her. I want to have her lead. I want her to be this beautiful, wonderful woman, like, who leans into everything that excites her. That was one of the first few times I said, what if I just start to, put myself on that pedestal? And what if I start to be that person who inspires me? And that means so much, and really, really comes full circle to a lot of my work that I've been doing on confidence, and I still feel like I have so much more to go. The final part of this video that I want to share about is kind of coming full circle on my love life. I had talked about how in college and a little bit after, I didn't feel like I was necessarily treated the best. But it hit a breaking point in one particular relationship where I walked away from it thinking, why do I keep ending up in this position over and over and over? I must be contributing to the problem in some way, shape, or form. I must be interested in these people for some reason. Why is that? I decided to take a step back from dating and really just analyze why it was that I was attracted to people effectively who weren't treating me well. That ended up turning into a multi-month pursuit, really just unpacking layers of wounds and being hurt. I think I internalized some feelings around not feeling fully loved, and I had to unlearn a lot of that. I really just peeled back the onion layers on a lot of that pain and feel really, really proud of that. That wasn't necessarily an easy journey, but a really, really rewarding one. I ended up also starting to rewrite some of the stories for myself around what it was that I wanted in love and what it was that I wanted in a long-term relationship. I had pages and pages of documents kind of detailing what I wanted that to look and what I wanted that to feel like. When I entered the dating pool again, I think I just got so much more confident and self-assured about what it is that I wanted, and also feeling so much more comfortable just saying no to anything that didn't look or feel good. It was because I was now operating from this abundance mindset of A, it's not a reflection on me if this doesn't work out. B, I'm wonderful. I'm looking for a person who matches that. And I just got so much more confident and self-assured in my dating life. When you start to operate that way, you no longer waste time on the people who are clearly not a fit, and you allow the right person who is a fit to enter your life. That is when I met my current boyfriend. We immediately just started seeing each other every day. I felt so grounded and calm being with him, even to the point where I decided to go to Hawaii with him after a week and a half of knowing him. He had a trip booked with his friends. Usually that would have sounded like something that was crazy to do. I even had a therapist who tried to convince me not to go, but it was one of those things where I, for quite possibly the first time in my life, didn't feel any urge or desire to ask anybody else's opinion. I just knew I wanted to do it, and I felt good about it, and I felt extremely calm and grounded in that decision. Unlike every other relationship that I'd been in, where I was the type of person probably screenshotting texts and saying, what does this mean? I felt extremely, extremely grounded in that. One more cute thing too, those documents that I had written almost detailing the type of person that I wanted to be with, I ended up reading him one of those documents a week into our relationship, and he had asked me, did you write this about me? And I said, no, I wrote this months ago. That is the power of writing out what it is you want, how you want this person to make you feel, what you guys want to do together, like what does that life look like that you want to build? Write that out. because then you start to get very clear about looking for that thing. I've now been in this relationship for 3 years. You can spend all the time you want before a relationship trying to heal on your belief on deserving love and being treated well, but I think a new set of learnings will come up when you're actually in the relationship, learning how to receive that love, learning how to communicate. Even in the moments where I feel nervous or I feel doubts or I feel scared about moving forward to the next step, he always just says, you know, I'll be here, I'll still be loving you. And he just gives me such a form of unconditional love. It is the most serious relationship that I've been in. And we talk now about the long-term stuff. We talk about engagement and marriage and kids. Just never really imagined myself being that person, like talking about marriage with somebody or talking about kids with somebody, and that feels so crazy. But it also feels very right. He is like truly been a partner, like a partner in life. I think I just think back to this version of me that in college kept dating guys that weren't good for me, and how I worked on myself and I reflected and I processed the reasons why I had been holding on to these beliefs of not good enough. I think he's showing me the type of love that college me started to believe was no longer for her. And I'm so glad I worked through that. That is my love story and my love confidence journey. I am just learning to reconnect with this like purity of heart that I had when I was younger, that somewhere along the way through life, you know, gets a little bruised, but like she's healing. So I'll say it loud and proud. I'm proud of myself.